I have no idea actually. We did body them in Crucible, so.
I honestly had so much to talk about afterward, and then after B-Kid's interview, I have no words.
I know there was some conversation before then, but it took a dive at some point. Look, they want to get 4th place to get to the Clash, and then they want to drop down so he can
work on that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very interesting, although comedic approach. But you know, they're sitting at 1-1 is Gale Force, and I think that the way that this team is structured, they've had expectations for almost 2 years since Gale Force kind of came on the scene. They brought in everybody. We've seen roster change after roster change. The expectations have been there, and as you had mentioned in the first week, the expectations aren't necessarily there. They seem a little bit freer flowing now.
Yeah, even Michael Udall said his shot calling, he feels like he has that pressure lifted off of him. And that pressure's been there ever since Fan joined the team. Not putting that on Fan, but just there was so much expectation when a player like Fan joins your team for you to succeed. And Michael felt that pressure in his shot calling, and it's been lifted. But as we continue forward, he'll need to continue to maintain that kind of shot calling, because that is what got them that win over Simplicity and let them do pretty well versus Freedom in that series. So let's check in now with the Battleground pool and get this series going. It's a best-of-5 between LFM and Gale Force Esports. LFM first picks the map, and they're going to pick Cursed Hollow. They've also banned Braxis Holdout and a Battlefield of Eternity ban for Gale Force, both very consistent bans from these teams that we've seen in their series last weekend.
It really goes to, I'm on the drive-in this morning, I'm thinking, all right, you know, will we see Gale Force maybe if they feel a little bit, maybe not desperate, but needing of a victory to make sure they get into something, do they fall back to their old play style on Braxis? And then you and I, when we were talking about the preparation for this game, the way LFM likes to play, maybe it will be more on their team fighting as opposed to macro as they continue to work through those. And Battlefield of Eternity is one way to really get into the team fighting dynamic. So you can see the strategy and map bans here from both teams.
Yeah, Heroes Hearth yesterday, they showed a lot of improvement from week to week. So I'm looking forward to seeing if LFM can do the same thing. LFM really didn't fall too far behind their opponents last week, and they were playing versus Team 12, and granted, Team 12 was just playing very safely, making sure that they didn't make too much mistakes, making sure that they didn't show too much, considering that their next match was going to be versus Tempo. But LFM had opportunities to fight, and they knew when they were going to need to be in a place to take a fight so that they could try to get back in the game. So I believe that LFM will continue that forward, try to make sure that they're doing their best to keep up with macro with Gale Force, but as we saw versus Simplicity, when Gale Force's shot calling is on point, they're catching people where you would not expect them to be, like that blind stage dive on Sky.
The blind stage dive, Fury, that thing will go down in Gale Force history as one of the wilder plays and most successful. And you know, Gilly, you were mentioning about the way that LFM found a way to come back. And I fully agree with you. They found a really good way. In some ways that you don't see other teams willing to risk is finding that way back. The problem that they had in their previous series was finding out how to close a victory when you're ahead. And I think that's something that if they can keep that same mentality and keep the pressure up by dialing it back a little bit like we saw on Sky Temple, it just feels like they're really close to sealing the deal on some of these games. And if they can just round that out, that means they have both sides of the coin that they can fall back on. So that'll be a key thing to watch today.
It takes a mental shift for these teams to go from open division to the professional division of HGC. Even getting ahead can put so much pressure on you that you start to try to play safely. You don't want to do something, you don't want to overcommit, you don't want to take make a choice that ends up costing you the game when you're ahead. And that mental shift is something that we're looking to see from both Heroes Hearth and LFM as they enter in and start playing with these seasoned veterans that have been in HGC for an entire year. We've got the draft starting. Gale Force bans Greymane. There's been a lot of Greymane play from LFM, but also something to note is just Greymane in general and where he's been falling from last week to this week, and Abathur banned from LFM. Yeah,
Greymane, and then when we look at ETC Lucio, which has now made it through for LFM, both of those heroes for both Gale Force and LFM during week 1 had extremely high involvement. Normally before the second ban, and generally when they fall into this category, We saw them both here. With Genji and Hanzo being let through, we got to see if LFM is like, all right, maybe we won't go. But you got to imagine one of those, ETC or the Lucio, maybe both come through here, unless, as you said, the evolution of their drafts have changed up a little bit. Maybe they saw things that did or didn't work in week 1, and now they're going to try out something different. And then you also have to keep in mind, Gale Force, Gilly, known to play the globals.
They are. They haven't been as global focused as they've been in the past, not drafting like every role that possibly can have a global will have a global by the time that the draft finishes, which is sometimes something that they would do and just try to run the macro game. In this case, Abathur has been taken away, but it's still an absolute possibility that we see Michael Udall end up on his Falstad, that we maybe see a Dahaka from B-Kid here. There's plenty of opportunities for them to sneak in a global to try to control the map.
Speaking of B-Kid, last week on Cursed Hollow, Gilly, they had Genji and Li Ming with B-Kid on that Li Ming, and then they also had Udall flexing on another range. So we've seen a different dynamic, but of course Dahaka, if that comes into play, maybe the ETC with the stage dive comes into play. And with Uther on the other side, it actually does really well against the ETC dive composition that we generally see Fury being aggressive. They follow up on those stuns, and then Uther dishing out that armor can really, you know, kind of push back that assault.
You know, both games that Gale Force played on Cursed Hollow, that's where I was leading to it. Every game that Gale Force played on Cursed Hollow last week was not your standard draft that you would see. They had the quote-unquote triple range with B-Kid playing Genji, and then they had B-Kid playing Zeratul and still a couple of ranged. Looks like they want to stick with that. They did not win either of those games. Simplicity were able to win some late game team fights to come back there, but Gale Force did have the control of the early game, and then they also lost versus Team Freedom. Zeratul in general, he's struggling, guys, in North America. North America is the region playing him the most. Hasn't been touched in Europe, to my knowledge. Barely touched in Korea, but let's set that aside because Korea just always likes Zeratul. The one win was yesterday from Glaurung. Otherwise, Zeratul has not won in North America in the 7 games he's been played.
Zeratul into an Uther because of the stun. Also with Hanzo, we've seen the reveal. And lately in North America, we've seen the Tassadar Hanzo. And so you have the double reveal. It's not just to find out if he's there, it's just a matter of making him revealable to get that auto attack and get that dismount. So Lucio banned out, and I really wonder, will we see the Tassadar again? Maybe it gets banned out. But Zeratul has been struggling, and I think there's a big reason why is getting the reveals, getting the stuns, and picking up a Zeratul this early does complicate things.
Especially with a Genji too. These are 2 heroes who would like to be floating around trying to get picked somewhere, but probably we're gonna have to see B-Kid in general stay to a lane. Unless we end up seeing something like the Falstad again to follow up, and then maybe something, I'm just going to see the Tassadar ban there from Gale Force because of that Hanzo. But yeah, those last 2 picks that can sort of fill in and make sure that Zeratul and Genji can still float around and look for picks.
With that on the double support that we actually saw a double support with Brightwing at the end of yesterday.
Right.
I don't know if that's something that we might see here from LFM. Obviously, our meta is constantly evolving here in the first few weeks. Maybe the double support, but if that double support doesn't come through, I wonder if Gale Force would be looking to maybe go, well, the Brightwing, but also, so you get the Brightwing bomb, but then maybe Lunara to help counter the Uther pick. I always feel like really good about heroes that can whittle somebody down, get them down to about 75, 60% health, and then you come in with the Genji Zeratul and really finish that off. And you know, Lunara fits that role pretty well.
Dahaka picked up, so the LFM can have one of the globals that we talked about before. Saw one Lunara yesterday, played by Cure.
Incredibly well.
Yeah, I feel like that was maybe the best game for Team 12 since the one game that they played versus Fnatic in the group stage of Gold Club World Championship. Like that, it was a cursed game. They played exceptionally well, but yesterday, I said it before, Team 12, every single person, the Sanctifications were insane, Goku played insane, Lunara plays insane, Buds was hitting palms, Dansky had that incredible teleport over the Entomb. It was just like, man, oh man, that team showed up. It was good.
The game was really good. As you said, the Brightwing in consideration here, but against the Hanzo, you know, Hanzo has enough consistent damage that Brightwing is not as appealing to me, but they end up with a Rhaegar, and we get a Ragnaros here, so that's a double melee. And now that we've got Ragnaros Zeratul, you mentioned the solo lane and the lack of wave clear when it comes to Zeratul Genji, especially pre-10 Zeratul. But potentially, to make sure you don't lose control of the lanes.
What are you talking about?
The wave.
Ooh.
The wave of
Wait,
lava.
like, oh, we're not on camera. I was going to do it.
A two-person wave?
You think a lava wave, huh?
It's a possibility. You're going against the Dahaka who can push out lanes, and if you want to get into the skirmish, the team fighting aspect, which they're definitely going to be doing, then they could really keep control of the battleground without giving up too much else.
Right.
But you really got to wonder, potentially Cocoon onto the Uther, force out a Divine Shield maybe early, and then get the Cocoon, things like that. Once the Cocoon pops, bring down the Sulfuras Smash. They have a lot of opportunities to isolate a hero, and I think that's definitely going to be a big part of what their draft is against a solo Uther. There's a lot of dive potential here against this composition.
I could see, yeah, either of Ragnaros' heroic abilities. Yesterday I saw put on a show of how good Sulfuras Smash can be comboed with any other stunlock. Glaurung executed that very well with Sam, who is throwing out the Dragon's arrows. And in this case, it's again a new Barat Genji to try to go in, lock someone down. Following that up, having Ragnaros to be able to be there with the Sulfuras Smash too, just ensure they can go down. Even a Zeratul too. There's a lot of blow up there, and Uther is a good help against that though. He has a Divine Shield, has Hand of Protection to try to bail out. And then you've got these, you got ETC to give some help with that too. Yeah, LFM's got their work cut out for them, but a very standard draft for game 1 for them.
As appealing as Divine Storm would be against all that dive, you got to imagine Divine Shield will be the pick to save somebody on that and then try and get that one reset. That's sometimes all Li Ming needs is to just get that one person down and get that reset. Of course, Disintegrate helps pop that Cocoon. So it's going to be up to Gale Force. If that Cocoon does go out, they got to be quick on the trigger to follow up on that.
And Gale Force needs to watch out because Hanzo takes bosses quickly, and there's 2 bosses on this map. So it's something to keep in mind for Gale Force. We'll see if they can do it. We're ready for game 1 between LFM Esports and Gale Force Esports. LFM versus GFE, the battle of the acronyms. It starts right now.
Battle of the acronyms as we've got LFM here on the left in blue. Figgy, aka FZ Ignition, he's going to be on ETC. T, once known as Specialty, he's going to be on Li Ming. The Aware on Uther, Draded on Hanzo, and then on Dahaka is good old Swabs.
There he is. For Gale Force Esports, big impact. He will be playing Genji, Michael Udall on the Ragnaros. B-Kid playing Zeratul. Fury will be playing a new Barak. And finally, Akaface on Rhaegar.
Was there any question on whether it would be Udall on Zeratul or not, or do we just think that's B-Kid's hero from now on?
Yeah, B-Kid played it before. It seems like it is his hero now for the team. And that allows Michael Udall to still be more of the flexing back and forth, right? Zeratul has played back and forth between backline, frontline. He's not always just constantly up in front. So it is a slight switch to put Michael on the Ragnaros. We'll see if it continues. I think it makes a lot of sense to try to have the Zeratul player just be the one player though, because with the new Zeratul, there's a lot of mobility options. You have Vorpal right at the beginning, so it takes a lot of time and effort to make sure that you are playing him to his full capacity.
Yeah, the consistency, I think, is definitely a big part. This is something where Dahaka does struggle a little bit against ranged heroes. Genji, for the most part, getting the better of them with no ammo anymore. It's not that big of a deal. You don't have to necessarily prioritize as much. Both teams will fall back to their respective siege camps. And with that being in the top, obviously we see Dahaka positioned in the bottom lane, as he should be, can help defend against those, and if a fight breaks out, will be able to defend against that tribute in the top lane, an advantage that they do have with their global.
Yeah, generally when you see the teams head to the Giants, it's followed up with a pretty fast movement toward the Bruisers too. Just get all of the mercenary camps out at once, get something done potentially with the double push. And since Gale Force put a lot of focus in that mid lane and were able to push the wave in somewhat to the towers, we'll see if they can do more with the Bruisers. They are faster to this rotation. Oh, it looks like LFM are starting to head there. No, they're just going to send Li Ming down to the bottom lane, see if they can get some damage done, make sure that they're defending versus these Giants so that Biggie doesn't do anything extra to the towers and bot.
And the one thing I'd like to see Gale Force do is to hard push that mid lane. We already see Molten Core used in the top, but Gilly, by pushing that mid lane, they fall under that spell armor. Against a Li Ming and a Hanzo who don't really have that great auto attack damage, you actually get a lot more value by pushing under these, and we actually see the early rotation towards the mid. They're going to hide for now. Look for them to hard push into this, get as much structure value as they can, and kind of build up a small little lead here under the Knights.
What it does allow for is once the tribute phase starts, if Hanzo and LFM, after cleaning out these Knights, can go and get their own, then they would have that pushing for the tribute phase. It's going to be spawning in 30 seconds, and Drade is just now getting started with that level 4. But Figgy takes a lot of damage trying to defend versus these Gale Force, getting much done with these bruisers, taking out one tower and looking to bring down the second and a gate before that tribute phase spawns.
And this is the thing, is that Hanzo has not made it here yet. He did go into the extra damage onto a scatter shot onto the Knights.
Yes.
It does help him clear, but it's not helping the defense here, and that's the problem. I expected them to get the gate at minimum, but they're getting much more than that. By getting the well, they'll have a little bit of fort damage in, but that's the power of having that spell armor and pushing in against a more mage-style heavy team that we see from LFM.
Yeah, LFM prioritized having that bruiser camp of their own, but because it took so long to clear that out, the bigger problem is not only how much damage was done to the fort, but LFM didn't get to the rotation in time for the tribute, and Gale Force had a fast rotation for their own and picked that tribute up for free. And the next one is going to be in an advantageous positioning for Gale Force Esports. So it's on LFM to make sure that they're keeping up at this point. One tribute, not too bad, but if they have to give that next one up because of the positioning, then they're going to have to be able to contest the third, and that's what's really important. This will be great for them if they can get this kill. Burrow charge away, Fury survives.
And conversely here, Gale Force, you know, they don't have a lot of ranged heroes. I mean, Genji is your sole range damage dealer. And so LFM turning the tables on them as well. You know, Gilly, with you had mentioned in the draft, having Hanzo double bosses, normally you're saying level 7, unless it was like the old Q-build Vala, you wouldn't necessarily go for it. Fnatic would try something like that. But I wonder if LFM might consider just falling back and trying to make a boss play now. I mean,
I guess we'll see. The tribute's spawning in 15 seconds, but even if they knew that Gale Force was going to be at that, they didn't want to contest that, trying to rotate around and get something done elsewhere. But we see Figgy and Draded hanging out. Draded has the ability to stall things out, and T definitely does.
The next tribute will be bottom left.
Yes.
So it is important for LFM to at least try and get control. If they get this, great, then they can try and double up in a spot that's a little bit easier for them. If they don't get it, it's not that big of a deal because you know you'll have a little bit safer side on the bottom left.
Big E power slides through. Fury seems to be the target again. Burrow charging in aggressively as Big E and the rest of the team show up. Gale Force Esports take out one in the first blood. A nuke goes down. Great drag on Swabs, but the cleanse is there from Akaface to keep B-Kid from being in any immediate danger. Big E diving in deep, hoping to get the kill on Draded. Has a deflect to ensure that, but he gets caught by a drag. Swabs hitting all these drags to give LFM another kill.
Kind of reminds me of the Overwatch cinematic as Genji chasing down the Hanzo there. He hopped over the terrain and Genji's like, I can do the same thing. Ended up getting the trade there, but a little bit of a fight back and forth. That fight did bring up Dahaka, who was getting a little bit of a lead for them, but came into the middle of that fight a little bit late. Gets a few trades, but maybe could have gotten a bit more out of that bottom lane.
Yeah, losing out on the tribute, not ideal for LFM because they did bring Dahaka up, but the kills that they got keeps them in the game, as long as they make sure to get 10 before the next tribute fight, which is in that bottom left protected position for them. Genji starting on the boss for Gale Force Esports as they're just about to heroic abilities, and the rest of the team starting to funnel in to help out.
Yeah, this is a really good play for Gale Force. They're almost level 10. We don't see this, and this is something that as LFM gets more experience, Gilly, they'll understand that teams will do this against them. When they know that the tribute is going to be on the bottom left, everybody knows it's going to be there. And so this is a play for Gale Force to be like, look, we can probably get 10. They can't exactly invade. It's on our side. And now they can make a double play for this. And, oh, by the way,
by fire, be purged.
We got it. Level 10, though, picked up. That's one heroic that won't be available in a team fight where LFM also has level 10.
Michael Udall must have been conversing with some of our A and Z players, because I know they love to play Lava Wave. At least one team did.
Got one caster we know that does too.
Yeah, that's true. Gale Force willing to contest this tribute. Even just keeping a lot of LFM down here ensures that not as much as they're dedicated to the defense, off. Dragon Blade comes out. Big E takes down Draded. Mosh Pit catches 2. Nothing really to stall that out, but they do get the stun from Fury as he knocks up from the behind, where everyone focusing in as Anubarak is silenced from the isolation. Akaface is caught, and all of the members of LFM. That gives the reset as Rhaegar goes down, but so too does ETC. It is an all-out battle, a brawl, as Genji is surviving, taking down 4. Gale Force Esports win 4 for 1.
A boss is going to get more value. Oh, Biggie, that's unfortunate there, as Swabs did have the tongue back up. That boss will get a bit more value because it's not taking shots from the towers. Gets 1 turret down there, but you got to credit Gale Force for initiating that. Genji stuck around in that little horseshoe style, kind of hid in the fog of war, waited for everybody to be isolated, and then we saw Fury and team go in. Good coordination to start that fight. They had a good team victory. A little bit of a slip up at the end there, though.
Yeah, it was just really fast that Hanzo went down in that fight too, and from then, LFM, they went ahead and brought in Haka, but then that left nothing to defend versus the boss in top. Boss is still available in the bottom too, and Gale Force now with a 2-level lead, just straight up off of that team fight, having the boss taking advantage of having 10 just slightly faster than LFM, and even making it to the tribute. If they didn't get that tribute, they were still ahead in tribs, but this just sets them up for a way bigger snowball in this game 1.
It's the experience that shows. Sometimes the small things that you do early game have a much bigger impact later. When they pushed in with that night camp middle, Gilly, it opened up the door and that fort was exposed. The first curse was picked up, and that was able to get the mid one. The boss got the top, and then of course they were able to take the fight, get the curse, and then they got 3 forts with their first tribute, giving them that 2-level, almost 1.5 level lead at this point.
So let's talk about the lava wave, because this is the first time we're seeing it in North America. I had heard tales, perhaps, about lava wave, maybe making more of an impact within the region. But what is Michael Udall looking to do with this?
Well, it solves the problem with the global. Let's wait 1 second. There's the Impale. We're going to go ahead and get the Cocoon to deny that.
No,
that Dragon Arrow, that's a 4-man mosh pit!
Oh, that mosh pit, but he gets stunned out from the boss itself. Unfortunate, because that was a ginormous mosh pit. There's still a chance for LFM to chase them down, though. Gale Force is scattered. The boss, dodged by the burrow. Goes into the Molten, knocked out at the last second by Figgy. That longer range coming in handy there at level 4. The fight continues. Li Ming gets the Divine Shield as she is hoping upon hoping for resets. There's the first one. Michael Udall will be the next one.
They're getting and going for more. Draded, the scatter arrow is going to go, but the shield is going to keep Akaface alive. 3 members, though, Gilly, did go down. They got the boss. They're going to get a little bit out of it. And, this is that moment where the boss was a risky call for Gale Force, but it does take it out of the hands for LFM. But if these moments happen, you get a little bit of structure. You open up a potential soft win condition. You only took down 1 tower. But you allow LFM to get back in other ways, and that's an experience. And the closer they get to experience, we actually saw Simplicity stay in this fight the same way in Cursed Hollow in the opening week, and it took 1 team fight for them to come back. And there's the massive one. But
yeah, so good.
Cleanse a tiny bit late there on the Figgy. Slightly
too late. Otherwise, it might have been a different story. But even still, LFM knew that they could chase this around. That was a great dodge from Swabs too. And knocking Ragnaros out of that Molten Core, really important. This is a great team fight for LFM.
Yeah, it had that Impale landed onto Swabs. Then Michael Udall gets in that Molten Core, and things look a lot different. So Swabs making a small, subtle play there. Had a big impact for them to clear that. But, we were talking about the lava wave, Gilly.
Yeah.
It really goes into the fact of they don't have a global. They're playing a very team fight skirmish heavy. So one of the things you can do to control that, to control those lanes, is to use lava wave. You're missing out on a big tool in team fights, in Sulfuris Smash, but it gives them the control and allows them to kind of rotate. They got the boss steal. Unfortunate how it turned out at the end, but they got the boss steal. They've kept up their rotations, and they've been a step ahead of their opponents the entire way, and that's a big reason why.
And what you'll often see him do as for the Aware is going to get caught from a lot of damage. Great body blocks to ensure that he doesn't get away, even with the usage of that Divine Shield. What you'll see Michael Udall do is use it right as the objective is about to spawn, so that it forces LFM to make a choice. Do we go up and defend versus that lane? We might be potentially losing out on experience because of that push. Thankfully, they have the global to push against that, but it keeps him busy too in that lane. So we saw it in the last time with the last tribute, using it just as the tribute fight was about to start. And he'll be trying to use it as often as he can around that to maximize how hard they're able to push, set them up too so that the lane is pushed if they win the next team fight. Can win the game off of that lane being pushed.
No 16, Uther just now spawning and a boss on the board. This tribute does not give a curse, but it definitely puts Gale Force in a good spot. And I say that because depending on where the next tributes are, Gilly, you can find yourself as Gale Force saying that you can ignore the next 2 tributes and then play around 20. And that way you can kind of use your 20 tier to get the curse and then potentially in the game, maybe a boss play at that point and use 20 tier. So it's up to Gale Force. They can be aggressive, but if things do get any bit scary at all, just back off, play the long game. We know they're more than capable, but I want to see that decision making come out for them to make the smart play and just kind of be okay with playing the talent tier advantage at this point.
Swaps has been doing phenomenally for LFM. Pushes that bottom. Gale Force, as they start the boss, are going to send Lava Wave in the mid. They do see Figgy, and this time they focus on him a lot. There's going to be the same Dragon's Arrow that hits 3, grouping them together. But Figgy is really low right now. It's going to be hard to find a place where he can mosh pit without just getting killed for it. Michael Udall, though, if he falls down, that's the start of a lot of resets, a lot of damage. The team fight comeback potentially for LFM.
It's definitely working, and now they've got the race. No Ragnaros here. He will be back by the time that pushes, so they could play, use Molten Core, and then just try and defend against the boss. But some way, somehow, Gale Force is saying it's okay to take a 4v5. They're actually going to attempt this. I don't like this call at all. This is a... I just was talking about they just need to play safe, play the long game, and yet they're finding ways to not play the long game, and now they stagger deaths. This is very detrimental to their chances of winning.
Yeah, they still had some of their really impactful heroics up. They had Dragon Blade, they had Ancestral Healing. Ooh. With Zeratul down for 25 more seconds, they're going to go ahead and take a curse.
Very reminiscent of 2017 by taking a curse with people dead.
Yep.
Because what do you do with it? You gave away one of your only win conditions, is getting the curse, play 20, and end the game. Now, you're resetting. It's 0-0 when it's going to come to the tributes, although ETC might be getting hunted in the bottom. But you're giving away, getting rooted and stunned there. You're giving away one of your only win conditions, Gilly, is by playing the 20 tier and getting that curse and into the game. By doing this, you've effectively done nothing other than deny 1 tribute towards 3 on the side of LFM. It's a very familiar call for them, and I don't understand it.
Oh no! Dragon's Arrow, Li Ming, ETC, and that was right next to the bottom boss. I thought maybe Gale Force were going to try to go for the boss, maybe with the curse, but something has Gale Force shaken. Stagger deaths would do that, maybe just not necessarily respecting what LFM was bringing to the table, at least in game 1, and LFM has come to play. They are doing well in these fights.
Kelly, LFM, I mean, you've got Molten Core, but if LFM gets 1 pick to start this, or Gale Force thinks it's okay to kind of push out a little bit, I mean, we could be looking at a potential end here. And this is just major macro decisions in the mid to late game that seem to be haunting Gale Force moving into 2018.
Well, there's no fear of a curse from LFM, but there is a fear of this situation that is right now. Molten Core has been used. B-Kid's going to put the harassment onto T along with that Molten Core. It's just about done, and the boss is halfway. Gale Force just need to make sure they don't lose anyone crucial here. LFM are getting pretty close to 20, though. They've had Swabs out. Swab's going to start to stock in as they get closer and closer to having those Storm Talents.
Keep's going to give them 20. I don't think they can really look for a fight at this point, but netting themselves a keep, and depending on how long this game goes, because there are no tributes on either side, we could potentially reach that boss status again, race it with Hanzo, and that's GG. I mean, LFM has put themselves in a wonderful spot here 16 minutes in.
A little while before top boss available, 2 minutes. Gale Force needs to get their 20 of their own. Storm Shield, their ETC. There are obviously a lot of really good talents for ETC at 20. It's a huge spike for him. but it's not common that you see Storm Shield be picked up by him.
And it's also, I mean, you'll see people confidently lock in, but sometimes you'll see a lot of ETC players, because there are so many, hold it. And I'm a bit surprised that they're not holding. Without 20 here, we're going to see Gale Force just kind of wait.
The way Gale Force has been grouping with how many melee they have, I'm terrified of that Contagion pick from LFM.
Bobblehead night.
Yeah, the Dragon's arrow has been hitting 3 to 4 people every time, which is fantastic awareness from Drada that he gets that hit. But it's also just there is a lot of melee for Gale Force. Even the range is pseudo melee.
It's up to Udall to also hold his level 20. You can wait to get heroic difficulty to see if you need that extended Molten Core to defend against a potential boss. Or if you're in the middle of a team fight and you feel it's going to be the way to claim victory, you go into the Submerge. You find different ways. And so I like the fact that he's sitting on his 20. Look for the moment, the right opportunity on when you need to use that. So heads up play here, at least talent choice wise. We'll see if he has a chance to make that a super impactful moment.
You got that. Fury and Big Impact trying to keep Figgy within the range of the stun of the Molten Core. Fury's going deep, diving in, hoping that he can get the kill there. He went in with Burrow Charge, swaps. Standing in front with Earthbrass Totem slows him down and allows Fury to retreat.
They're going to try and siege down this. He did lock in his 20, so it's giving him a bit of extra time here. They should get this, but LFM could just as easily turn this.
Immediate Ancestral Healing. Drag pulled out of the mosh pit, but it still gets the kill. It still takes down Zeratul, and Fury's in danger too. He falls down. T dives forward, hoping for more. Biggie using his Dragon's Blade just to try to get back, get into range of mount speeds that he can get back, trying to dismount at the same time. Dives on out, dives away. Michael Udall now in danger, pulls away some of the members of LFM. This is catastrophic for Gale Force. They went in, they were hoping that they could get a keep, trying to get some catapult pressure for themselves. They lose 3, only Genji and Rhaegar left as LFM start toward the core.
Udall went to capture that tribute. I'm pretty sure he was there capturing a tribute to make sure that they didn't get it. If I'm not mistaken, there was really no reason for him to be there. And if he lives, this is defensible. If he dies, you lose the game. And that's where they're at now. I just, late game decision making has hurt Gale Force a lot this game. And also, the level 20 upgrade for Li Ming on getting that soul on the Disintegrate actually helped set up that kill on a Nubrak, so good pickup there for T. But things unraveled quickly here. But credit LFM.
Oh yeah. To come in, have that level of punishment and that level of synergy together in the team fighting. Excellent play from them. They used the global to make sure that they could keep up and have opportunities to fight. They used the Hanzo in the way that he works very well on the map, and they were the ones catching Gale Force in their rotations. LFM played amazingly.
It's the one thing that we said is that they could come back. They knew the comeback mechanics on what they did, and oftentimes it was a matter of like, if we get one pick, what can we do with it? Then they got another pick, what can we do with it? Some of it seemed a little bit easier, but they also capitalized on those moments, and by capitalizing on those moments, they turned it into a boss. The boss turned into the bottom lane, getting that keep down, and it really gave them control. And you actually saw the mid lane control that it also gave them. By getting that mid lane control, you actually saw Udall use a lava wave middle. That's really only used to get that vision control. There was really no reason for him to clear that out because they had a fort standing there, but it gives you vision control and it gives you a little bit of soft, I guess, the narrow pass there, a lot of teams will prioritize that. It's one of the big advantages of getting the Knights. So it seemed like it forced the hand of Gale Force into several miscues. There's really no other way to put it.